Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of today's presiding officer, the Commanding General of the Futures and Concepts Command, Lieutenant General Michael McCurry, welcome to the Change of Command ceremony for the United States Army Medical Research and Development Command, where Major General Paula Lodi, Commanding General, will relinquish command to Brigadier General Constance Jenkins. At this time, we would like to welcome family members of the official party and distinguished guests joining us for today's ceremony. Major General Lodi's spouse, Command Sergeant Major Retired Henry Vance, and their daughter, First Lieutenant Mackenzie Vance. Major General Lodi's sister, Lieutenant General Retired Maria Barrett, and her spouse, Lieutenant Colonel Retired Brian Barrett. Major General Lodi's sister, Miss Pia Silbert, and Brigadier General Jenkins' spouse, Mr. Tom Jenkins. In attendance are the following distinguished guests: the Deputy Assistant Secretary of War, Health Services Policy and Oversight, Miss Susan Ortega, the United States Army Surgeon General and Commanding General of the United States Army Medical Command, Lieutenant General Mary Izagiri, and her spouse, Mr. Joseph Izagiri. The Command Sergeant Major of the United States Army Medical Command, Command Sergeant Major John Dobbins. The Command Chief Warrant Officer for Futures and Concepts Command, Chief Heath Stom. The Deputy Director of the Defense Health Agency, Dr. David Smith. The Director of Research and Development Directorate for the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, Dr. Ben Petro. The Defense Health Agency Acting Assistant Director for Research, Development, and Acquisition, Component Acquisition Executive, Rear Admiral Yvonne Arena. The United States Army Joint Staff Surgeon, Major General Clint Murray, and his spouse, Mrs. Leanne Murray. The Commanding General, United States Army Reserve Medical Command, Major General Beth Salisbury. The Commanding General of the United States Army Medical Readiness Command East, Brigadier General James Burke. The Command Sergeant Major of the United States Army Medical Readiness Command East, Command Sergeant Major Gabriel Wright. The Commanding General of the United States Army 3rd Theater Medical Command, Brigadier General Thad Collard and his spouse, Mrs. Denise Collard. The Director of the United States Army Policy and Force Integration, Brigadier General Tracy Michael and his spouse, Mrs. Regina Michael. We would also like to welcome all directors, senior leaders, commanders, senior enlisted leaders, and colleagues. Thank you all for joining us on this special occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the rendering of honors, singing of the national anthem by Staff Sergeant Lauren Pechev, and the invocation given by the 21st Signal Brigade's chaplain, Timothy Wilson. Lieutenant General McCurry has deferred honors to Major General Lodi.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the
gentlemen, I invite you to join me in a word of prayer as your faith allows. Almighty God, thank you that you command us in goodness and mercy. I thank you for each and every civilian, service member, and family member here. Thank you for their role in selfless service to our nation. With grateful hearts, we honor Major General Lodi for her tireless dedication, professionalism, and leadership as Commanding General. I seek your blessings for her and her family for their service to this command, the Fort Detrick community, and our nation. Equally with open hearts, we welcome Brigadier General Jenkins into command and into this family. May you grant her all understanding and wisdom to fulfill all this command's missions to protect, project, and sustain, ensuring the health and readiness of our warfighters. Finally, for all of us, may you grant us wisdom to discern between evil and good and the strength of character to lead among this great people, forging excellence for today and our future generations. I ask in your holy name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, please direct your attention to the front of the auditorium as we honor the families of Major General Lodi and Brigadier General Jenkins. Representing the United States Army Medical Research and Development Command are two of our soldiers who competed in the United States Army Transformation and Training Command's Best Squad competition, Sergeant Alvaro Rodriguez and Specialist Enrique Benito. On behalf of Major General Lodi, Sergeant Rodriguez will now present her spouse, Command Sergeant Major Retired Henry Vance, with a set of Ebola-free monkey cufflinks as a token of her gratitude for the service rendered to the United States Army Medical Research and Development Command, and the Fort Detrick community. Additionally, Major General Lodi's daughter, First Lieutenant Mackenzie Vance, will receive a USA MRDC coin. On behalf of Brigadier General Jenkins, Specialist Benito will now present her spouse, Mr. Tom Jenkins, with a gift signifying a new beginning and welcoming him to the USA MRDC Command and Fort Detrick community. In 1958, the Army renamed its Medical Research Board as the United States Army Medical Research and Development Command, tasked with serving as a central agency for all Army medical research and development to improve preventative medicine measures and rapid treatment techniques. In 1994, the Army renamed USA MRDC as the United States Army Medical Research and Material Command, with a mission to project and sustain a healthy and medically prepared force, be the agent of transformation for the future medical force, and enhance the care of service members and the military family by leveraging medical solutions. In 2019, the USA MRMC was redesignated as the United States Army Medical Research and Development Command, tasked to deliver medical solutions that preserve the fighting strength of the force, enhance readiness, and ensure the Army can prevail in future operational environments. Today, USA MRDC stands at the forefront of military medicine, leveraging world-class research, development, and global partnerships to counter emerging health threats, advance operational readiness, and deliver critical medical life-saving capabilities for the warfighter. At this time, Lieutenant General McCurry will oversee the passing of the colors from outgoing Commander Major General Paula Lodi to the incoming Commander, Brigadier General Constance Jenkins. The passing of the command colors is among the Army's most enduring traditions, symbolizing the formal transfer of command authority and responsibility. As the embodiment of a unit's lineage, honors, and service to the nation, the colors represent the trust placed in commanders to lead soldiers and civilians, steward resources, and accomplish the mission. The exchange of the colors signifies the seamless transition of leadership and the continuity of command that sustain the readiness and effectiveness of the United States Army. By authority of Army Regulation 600-20, the undersigned assumes command of the United States Army Medical Research and Development Command, effective 10 July 2026. Signed, Constance Jenkins, Brigadier General, United States Army Commanding. The passing of the colors from Command Sergeant Major Curtis Conklin to Major General Lodi signifies the Command Sergeant Major's role as the senior enlisted advisor and steward of the command's traditions, standards, and readiness. As the senior enlisted advisor, Command Sergeant Major Conklin passes the colors to Major General Lodi, signifying the loyalty, commitment, and confidence of the formation. The passing of the colors from Major General Lodi to Lieutenant General McCurry signifies the formal relinquishment of command and the completion of her stewardship of the organization, reflecting the trust and confidence placed in her leadership and her faithful execution of the responsibilities entrusted to her. The passing of the colors from Lieutenant General McCurry to Brigadier General Jenkins signifies the assumption of command and the transfer of authority, symbolizing the trust and confidence placed in her leadership to guide the organization and accomplish its mission. Finally, the passing of the colors from Brigadier General Jenkins to Command Sergeant Major Conklin signifies her assumption of command and reflects the mutual trust, confidence, and shared commitment that underpin the Commander and Command Sergeant Major relationship. By receiving the colors, Command Sergeant Major reaffirms his responsibility to safeguard the Army's traditions and uphold its standards. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commanding General of the U.S. Army Futures and Concepts Command, Lieutenant General Michael McCurry.
Thanks everybody for being here and packing it in. It's a long list of distinguished guests, including the representatives from our local congressional offices. Distinguished guests, General Izaguirre, General Barrett, other active and retired general and flag officers, members of the senior executive service, sergeants majors, state and local officials, family and friends, most importantly, soldiers and civilians of the Medical Research and Development Command. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate this transition of leadership for this critical and unique organization. I'm honored to host today's ceremony and to share the day with the MRDC team. Today, we celebrate MRDC's accomplishments during Major General Paula Lodi's tenure and welcome Brigadier General Connie Jenkins as she takes the colors. But first, I'd like to start by recognizing some special guests once again. Paula's husband, retired Command Sergeant Major Henry Vance, her daughter, First Lieutenant Mackenzie Vance, and I'll see First Lieutenant Annie Vance next week at the National Training Center, as she is already pre-positioned at Fort Irwin for Project Convergence. Paula's sister and my friend, Maria Barrett, brother-in-law, retired Lieutenant Colonel Brian Barrett, Paula's sister Pia, thanks for driving down from Massachusetts. I'd also like to welcome Connie's husband, Tom, who is a retired police officer and former infantry drill sergeant himself. So thanks for being here, Tom. You know, when I look at the Lodi family and the Vance family, who I've known for over 34 years, the combined military service is striking and really gives you a glimpse into why Paula is such a soldier-focused leader. Her husband, Henry Vance, retired as a command sergeant major, a 4-star command after a flawless Army career as an Army NCO. I happen to know Command Sergeant Major Vance when I was a young officer, and there is no better example of a standard bearer. I was always self-conscious of myself in my uniform if it wasn't perfect around Henry, because his would be flawless and he would quickly notice if yours wasn't. Henry was always out with our soldiers, our armor soldiers and troopers, enforcing the standard during tough training. And he remains incredibly well respected and across the force, and was repeatedly chosen as a nominative command sergeant major by seasoned combat officers. Henry and Paula clearly passed service on to their daughters. First Lieutenant Mackenzie Vance, here in the front row, a transportation officer in the Army Reserve, just recently returned from deployment to Romania, and currently serving in the reserves in Washington State. And Annie, as I mentioned, is an armor officer currently serving as an infantry rifle platoon leader in 3rd Brigade, 4th Infantry Division at Fort Carson, Colorado. And I already mentioned Maria and the rest of the family. It should come as no surprise that service is a family tradition for Paula, as she was inspired to serve by her father, PFC Rustin Frederick Lodi, an Italian immigrant. PFC Lodi served with distinction in Europe, where he earned a Silver Star during World War II. Paula's father, as well as her mother, Clara, later served the community as educators, inspiring Paula and laying the foundation for a lifetime of public service. Let's please recognize these two great American military families with a round of applause. As I mentioned, I've known Paula for more than 34 years. When meeting her, she immediately impressed me with her physical fitness, toughness, enthusiasm, and professionalism. Actually, when I think about it, the seminar was pretty rowdy, and she might have been the ringleader on that too. But it is her infectious energy and humor at herself that enables her to bring people together and be the most effective team leader, team builder I have known in my 40 years in the Army. Paula, I know you're planning to do your retirement ceremony at a later date, but please know that you have the thanks of your fellow soldiers, the Army, and our nation as you transition to the next phase of life with your family. I know that Generals LaCamera, Townsend, Flynn, and Troy would wish you the same. Today, I really want to focus on the unique history, mission, and people of MRDC. Built on over 200 years of clinical, administrative, and technological innovation in military medicine, this command follows the tradition of protecting the lethality of the force through health that was initially established under George Washington during the smallpox outbreak of the American Revolution. We might not be here today on the heels of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence if Washington hadn't heeded the advice of his medical staff. In less than a year, the colonial army's smallpox rate dropped from 20% to 1%. That's the power of military medicine and how we preserve combat power. A little over a century later, Major Walter Reed proved that mosquitoes transmit yellow fever, which revolutionized tropical medicine and enabled the construction of the Panama Canal. The Army's medical research efforts would pave the way for mobile X-ray units, acknowledging and treating post-traumatic stress, and the mass employment of antibiotics to fight infection during World War II. In Korea and Vietnam, the Army pioneered aeromedical evacuation and institutionalized in-transit medical care, both of which have become commonplace for civilian first responders. This command builds on those proud traditions, whose advances in preventive medicine, combat casualty care, and public health enabled the safety of our nation. Our medical professionals are a critical link in the chain of never leaving a fallen comrade. Our soldiers on the battlefield know that we are coming to get them and that we will speed them into the hands of the best medical teams on the planet. Today, the men and women of MRDC, scientists, engineers, doctors, and analysts continue this proud legacy and lead the Army in medical research and development innovation with a clear-minded focus, protecting and sustaining our force. Whether it's the research that the Institute of Environmental Medicine team conducts on soldier performance in extreme environments, the Aeromedical Research Lab's focus on aviation soldier safety, or the focus on infectious disease, chemical and bioterror threats, or innovative casualty care, your work is critical. I know you put a tremendous amount of work into bringing together all parts of MRDC into a cohesive unit, Paula. And the support of one another was evident at your function last night. That effort is why MRDC has been so successful over the last 2 years, and why our soldiers are so well taken care of. I also know, Paula, that you came into this command during the transition from Army to DHA, where you were wearing multiple hats. You were the senior mission commander here at Fort Detrick, which also hosts parts of multiple cabinet level agencies, bringing a whole new gravity at times. You were the director of DHA R&D and helped lead those 4 direct reporting units through the transition. You're the DHA Deputy Assistant Director for Research and Engineering, and finally, the MRDC Commander, as we recognized earlier. As expected, based on your previous career accomplishments, you did a phenomenal job navigating all of these different chains of command. Only someone of your caliber could have undertaken an effort this large and been so successful. Now, however, we must say goodbye to General Lodi. Paula, for 2 years, you and your team have led the Army's efforts to combat threats to soldiers' health, optimize soldier performance, build resilience, respond to world events, and enhance operational effectiveness, all of which in turn serves to make our Army more lethal. Now, as you retire to beautiful Williamsburg, you and Henry can travel, hike, cook, and host parties to your heart's content. I know that hosting has always been a part of your personality, from the days at Fort Lee to Sam's class Halloween parties at Fort Leavenworth to Palm Circle. And Henry was always right there to maintain order as your friends began to enjoy a little too much. I'm selfishly glad that you will be in Williamsburg and is so close to Fort Eustis. I'll be looking for the invite to the next big event. In all seriousness, thank you for your service to the men and women of MRDC. And thank you for 36 years of dedicated service to our soldiers, our Army, and our nation. It's always difficult to leave command, particularly when you've built a cohesive team. But departures like this are always made easier when you know you're leaving the command in good hands. In the finest of Army traditions, we are replacing one incredible commander with another. Brigadier General Connie Jenkins comes to us directly from the United States Army Medical Command, where she most recently served as Chief of Staff. So she is intimately familiar with wrangling the complicated resourcing and chains of command that look like spaghetti on charts. With proven combat experience in both Iraq and Afghanistan and a complete resume of the right assignments, Brigadier General Jenkins is eminently qualified and prepared to lead this phenomenal team of teams to the next level of excellence. My good friend, the Surgeon General, and I spoke about Connie almost a year ago, and I knew she was the right leader for MRDC. Connie and Tom, welcome to Futures and Concepts Command and the helm of MRDC. I know that you'll lead this team of professionals to success on this critical mission. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for being here, and thank you to all of our science, engineering, and medical professionals for what you do for soldiers every single day. Forging the vision, this will defend.
Thank you, Lieutenant General McCurry. Ladies and gentlemen, the former commander of the United States Army Medical Research and Development Command, Major General Paula Lodi.
Good morning. Previously recognized distinguished guests, service members, civilians, contractors, and families, thank you for joining us today. Special thanks to all the state, county, and city community partners. Your support is essential to our ability to maintain, protect the homeland, and respond to national security threats. More importantly, you make serving at Fort Detrick like home to over 15,000 service members, civilians, and their families. To all involved in execution of this ceremony, thank you, and a special thanks to Staff Sergeant Pechev for one more rendition of the national anthem before she PCSs. I do want to thank my family, as General McCurry highlighted, the foundation of who I am. My father, an immigrant, decorated World War II veteran and career educator. My mother, also an educator, homemaker, and pillar of the community. I pray I've honored their legacy by changing the organizations that I've been entrusted with, as well as the lives of others. My dad passed away 41 years ago, and my mom 16 years ago. So there is a lot that I owe my 4 older siblings, because I do believe I inherited all the best qualities of each of them. And in keeping with Sergeant Major Conklin's advice, here's where we inject some humor so that the waterworks don't start too early in the speech. So Maria, my closest sibling in age, being from Boston, we watched an awful lot of PBS and Sesame Street. One of the few toys we had growing up were hand puppets of Bert and Ernie. And I was always Ernie, the troublemaker. And Maria was always the more pragmatic and serious Bert. And that dynamic has stood the test of time. Maria, having you literally as a sister in arms has been invaluable. From the day you helped Lieutenant Lodi bypass reception in Germany and get me to my first duty station in Schweinfurt, to your presence here today, you and Brian are a constant source of support, empathy, and patience, and Henry and I cannot wait to join you in retirement. Brian, it's like this. I go practice doing that to Henry, like Henry. I know. I have options. Pia, if Maria was my Bert, you would be Big Bird. No coincidence that we call you Peeps. Big Bird is one of many talents, gentle, loving, and curious, who has been named a living legend by the Library of Congress. You would be our Big Bird. And Big Bird's best friend is Snuffleupagus, a woolly mammoth that deeply cares for all in the neighborhood. And that is like our brother Russ, the patriarch who has kept our family and Franklin roots connected since our dad passed in 1985. And Carlo, well, he would have to be Grover. He passed away earlier this year, but Grover brings a high energy, playful spirit to all he does with a strict sense of duty and responsibility. Whether working hard at his job or flying around as his caped alter ego Super Grover, more than anyone, Carlo taught me you can be highly competent and dedicated to your job and still have an awful lot of fun and adventure doing it. And I think last night we might have paid tribute inadvertently to my brother Carlo. So thank you all for that. Sergeant Major Huff, where are you at? Oh, way in the back. Okay. Sergeant Major Huff once asked me where I learned how to be me. And to those who see any or all of the qualities I just described, that has been influenced by my siblings, now you know who to thank. So most have heard the story that 2.5 years ago, I was living my best life in Hawaii, commanding a theater medical command, a job I felt maximized all my experience and talent as a 70 hotel. I was hoping for a 1-year extension that would take me to retirement eligibility so that I could just gracefully come back to the United States, maybe be a special project officer while Henry and I transitioned off into the sunset. And then General Flynn called me from the 4-star conference. He was so excited. He said, congratulations, you're going to command MRDC. He said he and General Rainey had convinced the chief of staff to put me in command again. And I'm not sure what I said at that particular moment, but I hung up the phone and he called me back a couple minutes later and asked if I was okay. And I actually told him no. I said he probably could have told me anything except that, and I would have been okay. I was sure it was a mistake. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a researcher, and I spent an entire career avoiding all things acquisition and budget related. Both generals in separate conversations said you just have to be a good leader. And I don't doubt this is true because I do believe that every organization deserves good leadership. But the complexity of MRDC, plus the Director of DHA Research and Development, plus the Deputy Director of Research and Engineering, plus the Senior Mission Commander of Fort Detrick and Forest Glen Annex did seem like it required a little bit more than just good leadership. So in preparation for this awesome responsibility, I had to go to this thing called the Senior Installation Commander's Course to learn all about IMCOM and garrison operations. It's a wonderful 5-day course taught out of the Pentagon. And every night I would call Henry, who was back in Hawaii, and he'd say, how did your day go? And I said, great, I learned so many things I never knew about running a garrison. And I still don't want to be a garrison senior mission commander. Say it sounds like another full-time job on top of the other full-time jobs. And there's no way to do any of it well. So to Colonel Chung and my garrison team, to your credit, it never felt like it was another full-time job. You were patient with your historical knowledge and expertise and gracious when the business of research and development seemed to take precedence over garrison operations. And when you quickly figured out that there was no other way to do it but to blend the two, you skillfully blended mission assurance with quality of life priorities and made Fort Detrick the #1 installation in IDS and the number 5 out of 98 installations across MCOM. So they said you just need to be a good leader, so that is exactly where I focused. And to the civilians and military for whom MRDC is home, you all too often hear an incoming or outgoing leader say upon arrival or departure that when they came here, they knew nothing about what this organization does. Your patience, guidance, expertise, and graciousness simply enabled my ability to lead. And for that, I am forever grateful. I pride myself on being a commander-centric commander with a mission command philosophy, but even I know that in order to give our institutes room to run, there must be an enabling and functioning headquarters with a high-performing staff to underpin operations. To your credit, and amidst all the challenges and turbulence of the past 2 years, your ability to evolve and unfailing support of the mission was nothing short of inspirational. I firmly believe the only thing that got us through the challenges over the past 2 years is that we behaved like a command. Decisive when conditions were ambiguous and resources constrained, understanding that with command comes the responsibility to take risk and be held accountable. I am a commander's commander, and boy, the Army blessed me with the right leaders positioned in the right institute at the right time to do our mission. Userol, you gave me my first SIR when you temporarily lost a cadaver. Don't worry, sir, we found it. You introduced me to the fact that I was, in fact, the Army's proponent for cadaver use. Thank you. But now you're doing groundbreaking, innovating work, helping our pilots and warfighters stay safe on the battlefield. Rid, you gave me my most memorable SIR with the monkey that didn't pass SRP. Where you at, Aaron? You taught me the technical use of the term sacrifice, but you were also at the forefront of every biological threat our nation faces. ICD, you literally saved the life of one of our CBC teammates and showed grace in the loss of one of our own. Thank you. Usarium, every command needs an early adopter, and you are transforming boldly and reinventing your space, and you will meet the Army's future requirements. Rare, everybody say it with me, as our OCONUS superpower, you gave me an invaluable ability to rekindle and forge new relationships with my Thai, Philippine, Nigerian, Kenyan, and Republic of Georgia counterparts who introduced me to Cha-Cha. ISR, more than pickles the monkey. You inspired us to be all in. Where's Elisa? You inspired us to be all in. And in doing so, you created my favorite image, our favorite image that sat for 2 years on our desks, reminding us what we were about, bringing this team together. You brought us all together again in a crucible demonstration of courage and grace during the command's most difficult moment. ISR, thanks to you, Elisa, is now our crown jewel for cutting-edge combat casualty care research. And Sean Brown, you are the perfect person at the helm of that. And I look forward to seeing what you're able to do with that wonderful capability. And then I can't forget Ra and SMD, the best co-parenting gig in the universe, just as much a part of the family, just as much a part of the mission. We simply could not do what we do without you. You've been tremendous teammates, part of the family, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Maria, you cited a Greek proverb at your change of command and said that a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they know they shall never sit. This team of teams is in fact dedicated to a future that many of us can't even see or appreciate. And so for that, it has been an honor and a privilege of a lifetime to be a leader in this organization. I inherited a lot of bosses 2 years ago, solid lines, dotted lines, and invisible lines. Invisible lines to invaluable mission partners such as DTRA, DARPA, the BTO, the Joint Staff Surgeon's Office, to name a few, that make this whole complex and complicated organization work. I am grateful for my Army leadership, first AFC, then T2COM, and now FCC. In the category of FAFO, General Rainey put me here, and while there might have been a few incident reports where he questioned his life choices, he was a huge supporter of me, the things I wanted to achieve with this organization and the organization itself. His confidence conveyed as we have subsequently hosted every 3- and 4-star Army leader under our Army higher headquarters. To have my good friend and a leader I respect, General McCurry, preside over today's ceremony solidifies my confidence that the people and the mission of this organization is in good hands. So it's an honor for you to associate my name with those of Troy, LaCamera, Townsend, and Flynn. Thank you. Of all the bosses I gained, the least solid, at least on the wire diagram, was the one who arguably championed me in the organization the most, Lieutenant General Izagiri. Ma'am, you showed up at ceremonies, you showed up at senior leader forums, you showed up at holiday receptions, and anytime I thought the team here needed to reconnect with Army medicine's why. While no longer part of MedCom, we know we are an integral part of Army medicine, and your influence as an R-staff medical integrator has been invaluable. Thank you for always answering your phone, whatever the topic, and for the record, I never really was going to quit. We already talked about how hard it is to be a senior spouse. The environment's all demanding, all consuming, unpredictable, and about 10 other adjectives we won't mention here. Thank you and every other spouse who shows up and sacrifices so much that we can do what we love. To my own spouse, Henry, all the accolades, all the words last night, all the things that came out of the investment in relationships that lead to the team building that I aspire to do, recognized so graciously by General McCurry, it comes at a great cost to you, and that is not lost on me. The commanders are rightfully concerned about your well-being after I'm retired. I sincerely hope you like full-time Paula. As General McCurry said, Henry and I met when I was a second lieutenant. We married when I was a first lieutenant. He's literally been with me every step of the way. 13 of the last 17 years have been in command, a 24/7 demand that, according to my Marriott Bonvoy status, says I spent at least a third of not physically in the house with you. And mentally, it was probably more like 80%. I look forward to spending the rest of our lives together. No more monkeying around. You could say this monkey's off my back. They were my monkeys. It was my circus. But Connie, welcome back. It's all yours. If I'm wrapping it up, I had 4 hats, so I get like extra time on the clock. If this doesn't restore my faith that everything happens for a reason in the Army, nothing will. I was supposed to take command at MRDC in 2021, but I was diverted to Regional Health Command Atlantic, where I first met Connie Jenkins. She was my DCO, and I knew then she was a tremendous leader, a tremendous officer, and that someday she was going to be a general. Today, I could not be more proud to transition this organization that I have come to love and respect, to see her take her first general officer command, and to share this moment of achievement with her and Tom. Best wishes. Henry and I are always here for you. And the only other person I'm going to recognize, because she just loves it so much, is Dr. Quinn. Because literally somewhere in my speech, I said you weren't on my bingo card. And that was before Maria gave us this little tea towel that has right in the middle, you can't see it, but right in the middle of the bingo card, there's a star, and the star says big ladies. And that's what Kirk Jackson, our G2, affectionately refers to me and Dr. Quinn as the big ladies. Somebody please tell Kirk I gave him a shout out in my speech. Carrie, you are the center, just as on this big bingo card, you are the center of everything I was able to do in the last 2 years here. I know you will do the same for General Jenkins. Thank you. Project, protect, and sustain. Forging the vision. This will defend.
Well, good morning. Distinguished guests and our leaders from across Army Medicine, Defense Health Agency, and our federal, state, and local partners, friends and family. This feels like a family reunion at this point. We've been together for the last few days, and it's so great to see all of you and how many of you took gracious time out of your day to come spend it with us. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the chaplain for his invocation and blessing, and definitely Sergeant Petchef, who I've known for many years. To your point, it is her last act here as part of a MRDC family before she departs and heads over to Fort Leonard Wood for her new assignment. So excited for her. Today not only marks a change of command, but also a culmination of extraordinary service. Major General Lodi, it's been one of the greatest privileges of my career to serve with you. As your teammate during our time together at Regional Health Command Atlantic, I saw your leadership up close, your professionalism, strategic vision, and compassion for people, and an unwavering commitment to the Army and Army medicine. You've been a mentor, trusted leader, and a friend. On behalf of Tom and I thank you for your friendship, your generosity, and support throughout the many years, and especially during this transition. Your leadership has strengthened this command, advanced Army medicine, and you have personally touched the lives of countless soldiers, civilians, and families. Thank you. Henry and Mackenzie, thank you for your service as well. Behind every Army leader is a family that serves alongside of them. And Tom and I wish you all the best as you step into this well-earned next chapter in your life. Thank you. I am deeply honored to assume command of MRDC and to serve as the Director of Research and Development for the DHA. And in addition, and the third hat is take on the additional responsibilities as a senior commander here at Fort Detrick. Lieutenant General McCurry, Lieutenant General Izagari, thank you for your trust and confidence. It is an honor to serve alongside of these remarkable soldiers and civilians who make up this command. MRDC occupies a unique place in medical science in delivering capabilities for the future fight, enhancing the readiness and survivability of our joint force, from protecting from infectious diseases and emerging biological threats, and advancing combat casualty care, and developing the next generation of medical capabilities. For Tom and I, this assignment is also a homecoming, right? We previously had the privilege of serving here at Fort Detrick as part of MRDC, and we're grateful for the return to a place that's held a long special place in our hearts. Although we are still surrounded by moving boxes and still unpacking, Fort Detrick already feels like home. We look forward to reconnecting with friends, rejoining the community, and strengthening the relationship that make it so meaningful. I would also like to recognize our outstanding Fort Detrick workforce, the garrison team. Your professionalism, commitment, keep this installation running every day, and provide the foundation of every mission carried out here. As a senior commander, I look forward to serving alongside of you, sustaining the teamwork that makes this installation such a great place to live, work, and serve. That spirit of teamwork extends across the broader research and development enterprise. Together, we have an opportunity to accelerate innovation and translate scientific discovery into capabilities that improve the health, readiness, and survivability of the warfighter. Those breakthroughs will continue to come from this talented group, united by a common purpose and empowered by extraordinary things. To the soldiers, civilians, and teammates across the Army and DHA research enterprise, it's an honor to join your team. I look forward to serving alongside of you as we build upon the remarkable foundation established by General Lodi and those that came before her. Finally, to my husband, Tom, thank you for your unwavering love, encouragement, and partnership. None of this would be possible without your steadfast being by my side. I'm energized by the opportunities ahead and to build upon this legacy, strengthening the connections across this enterprise and continuing to forge the future of military medicine in support of those who serve our nation. Thank you for the warm welcome. Tom and I are honored to be back and grateful to serve in this exceptional team and ready for the work ahead. Forging the future, this will defend. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigadier General Jenkins. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and remain standing for the playing of the Army Song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Major General Lodi will remain in the auditorium to receive well-wishers. The receiving line will form along this wall to my right. Brigadier General Jenkins invites guests to join her in the atrium for light refreshments. Thank you for attending today's ceremony and enjoy the rest of your day. Forging the vision, this will defend.
There was the coin. Where's the coin for? No.
Before things get too crazy.
We'll see who's done our specials. Yeah, I don't know. Okay.